Greetings, everyone. It's Miss Bell here again from A Tutor That Cares, and I just wanted to do a follow-up for how to do a tutorial of using the TESTNAV website for PARCC for math practice tests. So again, I always go to Google and just Google DC PARCC test. Whatever area you're in, you could put in that, and they'll all still take you to TESTNAV. But I'm gonna go to the practice test. Since my specialization is 5th grade, I'm going to go to a sample math 5th grade practice test. Okay, and so it's a good practice for parents to do this at home. Notice they have 4 units, so you can go through all of them. You can actually have them solve it, and you can just actually have them go through and use whatever tools that they would need to be successful. So we're going to do Unit 1. Again, usually the first site that comes up, we're going to be a guess, so you don't really have to type in your name. It tells you that there are going to be 12 questions in this one unit. Most of the time, they give you 90 minutes for these 12 questions, and most of the time is spent for, going back and checking your work, drawing pictures, and using all your strategies for these real world application and word problems. Okay, again, these are the directions that teachers are going to be reading during PARCC. So make sure your scholars know you cannot answer any questions about the tools. You can't answer any questions about the content. So the time to do this is during your practices. Okay, so we're going to start. So just like the ELA platform, in order to get from one question to the next, we're going to utilize the arrows at the top, left and right, forward and back. We also have the same review drop down where you can go to specific questions. We also have the bookmark where you can bookmark specific questions that you might have problems with that you want to move on and come back to. We still have the pointer, which is highlighted now, okay? But we have a few tools that are specific to math. And so the inch ruler and the centimeter ruler are genuinely the same. However, we just want scholars to understand, that they should be using the correct ruler, inches for inches and centimeters for centimeters. So one of the things I want scholars to understand is when the inch ruler comes up, there's 2 ways to manipulate it. To move the ruler to where you need it to be, you click on the blue part and you move it to wherever it is that you need to move it to. Okay. Say I want to measure a line that is going vertical instead of horizontal. You want to click on the gray ones to rotate it. So whether it's the top or the bottom one, they both do the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to actually measure the length of this box here. And so one thing that you have to practice with your scholars is being able to measure with the ruler. I cannot tell you how many times the scholars, whether they were in 3rd grade or 8th grade, who have put a ruler up to measure something and they did not start at 0. Okay, we have to practice these tools. Okay, when you are measuring with a ruler, you must start at 0. Okay, they just give you some extra space just so you can have some room and so you can tell where you start at. But when you start at the edge, this is incorrect. Okay, if I want to measure this box, it is not 3 inches. However, we want to put it at 0. Okay, and it's almost 3.5 inches. So if we had a multiple choice of 3 inches, 3.5 inches, then it would be easy to choose the wrong answer. Okay, so again, this is inch ruler. Centimeter ruler works the same way. And again, we want scholars to make sure that they're using the correct ruler. Okay, if I use the centimeter ruler to measure something for inches, it said when we measured it at the wrong line, it said it was 3. Okay, this says 7 centimeters. If we measure it the correct way by starting on the 0, this is almost 7.5 centimeters. So we need scholars to make sure that they're just checking everything. Okay, we also have an answer eliminator here. Let me find a multiple choice question that they can utilize. Okay, I have to. Okay, so here we have a multiple choice. So again, with the same in ELA, you have your answer eliminator. If you want to eliminate those that you know for sure do not make sense, then you may do that. Lastly, we have the, well, not lastly, but we have the protractor. So we need scholars to understand that if they had an item that they were supposed to measure, okay, say I'm supposed to measure the angle of this outside line of the chart, okay, I will put the protractor. You must understand that when you're using your protractor, just like with the ruler, you have to do it a certain way. Okay, this circle with the cross in the middle, this is your origin or your midpoint. This is where you're putting the vertex or the apex. This is where you put in the angle of your this is where you put in the center of your angle. So I'm measuring, if I'm trying to measure an angle, again, to move the protractor, you click on the blue and you drag. Okay. In order to measure the angle, you would manipulate these gray circles to go which way you need it to. Okay. You also want to make sure that the white line at the bottom is lined up with any line you have. Okay. And so you would use your protractor this way. Okay. Other tools that are important, again, we still have to change the background for scholars who struggle with everything being white and black. Okay, and we have the magnifier. Okay, so I think the magnifier is more beneficial in the math arena opposed to ELA, because with ELA you have longer text, opposed to with math I can just zoom in on a number, or I can zoom in on a plot. Okay, and if you want to make it go away, you would disable the magnifier. Let me see. We'll go back to question 1. All right, so I want you to notice what just happened. So when I was in question 7, right, in my toolbox, I just have enable magnifier and show line reader mask. However, when I am at a multiple choice question, I have the option of masking my answers. Again, we kind of want to get scholars in the habit of doing this, because again, what I find is when scholars have access to the answers, what they'll do is they'll just look for something that they'll see, right, and they'll click on it and move on without working anything out, without applying any of the skills that they were, given during their lessons. So when the scholar masks their answers, this forces them to work the problem out on their own and then find and choose an answer that best fits with what they showed. And so again, if you want to one by one show the answers, you can click on the I, or you can just go to disable answer masking. Answer masking is only available for multiple choice problems. Okay, and our last tool that I want to highlight is the exhibits. So the exhibits is right here on the right. This gives you your reference sheet. Okay, so I believe 3rd through 8th grade math get a reference sheet. So these are the only references that you will be given for each grade level. So each grade level looks different, but this is your reference sheet that you can use, and we need scholars to make sure that they understand it, because I think we are not able to provide a paper copy for them anymore. Okay, so now let's go through the type of problems that you might see in math. So of course, this one is a multiple choice where you have option A, B, C, or D to choose from. Okay, this one is a drag and drop. So now with drag and drop, you are required to use some of the responses down here. So, okay, I am making this write an equation with a same denominator. Okay, my denominator is 6, so I know my denominator should be 6 here. So I'm going to drag and drop it. Notice when I use 6, it went away. So 3 times 2 is 6, 1 times 2 is 2, so I'm going to drag 2 up here. Okay, maybe I made a mistake. Okay, if I wanted to just change it, I can't. Okay, if I want to take a wrong one off, I have to drag it back down and then drop the correct one in. Scholars should practice doing this because, again, when they run into this issue, they are not able to ask us for help on the day of. Okay, this one is a short response where the scholars are responsible for typing in their answer. This is a decimal problem, so scholars must know where the decimal is located on their keyboard. So you should practice where the decimal is on the keyboard. Whether the answer is right or not, you should just have scholars put in a 4-digit number with a decimal. Can they access the decimal or the period on the keyboard? Okay, so problems like this is where scholars get most of their points. Problems like this is where most scholars would skip all of the parts and only focus on part A. So again, we need scholars to make sure that they're paying attention to the scroll bar over here on the side. Scholars need to understand that when it's all the way at the top, they are not finished. Scholars need to understand anytime they see a problem that has a part A, there's going to be at least a part B that follows, and most time it's a part C. A problem like this can be anywhere between almost six points, 2 points for each question. All right, so again, this is a written response, but there are 3 parts to it. Okay, so you should practice using these symbols on the side. You should practice having scholars put in a mixed number and add it with a regular fraction. With, you should have them practice making an equation with fractions so they know how to show their work. You should have them practice equation with division or your multiplication sign. So have scholars practice inputting different symbols in their text box just so they can get used to using the skills. So if I want to undo something I did, I can do that. Or if I just want to trash the whole thing, then that's how I can. Okay? You want to have your scholars get in the habit of scrolling to the bottom of the page. For each problem, just tell them scroll to the bottom of the page, see what's at the bottom of the page, and don't stop, don't go to the next problem, or don't submit your test until all parts are finished. Okay. Most of the time, when you have part A, part B, and part C questions, they build upon each other. Okay. So, for example, you have part B, and part C says use your expression from part B to find the total cost. So, of course, if your expression in part B is incorrect, then part C will be incorrect also. So, scholars just need to make sure that they are taking their time and that they are actually annotating the text. Yes, I did say annotating the text. I know scholars usually want to associate annotating the text with ELA. But these words that are written on the page, this is text. So we need scholars to make sure that they're annotating the text and referring back to the text when they're answering these questions. One practice that I do with my scholars is we read each question and say, okay, well, how many answers what all should be in your box, right? So we should have an equation. One thing, write an equation, and it should have G in there somewhere. Okay, so when scholars are practicing this, make sure you tell them, okay, for part A, let's put in any equation, but make sure you have G in there somewhere, right? Just getting them in the habit of doing that. Down here, write an expression that represents the total cost of the fence in the gate. Explain how you determine your expression. So, enter your expression and your explanation. So, scholars must understand that if they only enter the expression, they're losing some points. If they only enter an explanation, they are losing some points. Scholars must learn to answer the question in its entirety so they are getting the maximum number of points for each question. Okay, so now we have a drop-down problem where we have a drop-down menu and scholars must choose what they think is right. Okay. Like all problems, scholars should show their work. Scholars should still try to eliminate any responses that don't make sense. So as you can see, the answer eliminator is turned off. So maybe on your piece of paper, you could eliminate the ones that you know for sure don't make sense. Scholars need to be reminded that on problems like drop-down menu, that they have to go back and check it. Like, I know I wanted to say 1/10th, but it says 100th. Okay, so just have scholars pay attention to details, okay, just to minimize their errors. Okay, question 6, this is a graphing problem, okay? And so scholars need to understand, they want you to graph 3 points on here. So guess what? If you only graph point A, you're not going to get all your points, okay? So I graph point A. Okay, now I'm going to drop down to point B. Point B should be at 6 and 4. Okay, now I have point B. And the last point is point C, and point C is at 3, 0. Okay, be sure to graph all 3 points. Okay, when they put stuff in bold, it's because it's important. And a lot of scholars still miss this. However, it says be sure to graph all 3 points. This is something that scholars should be highlighting, okay? Have them use their highlight tool. If you notice when I highlighted it, 2 colors came up. I can highlight it in pink, so I know I need to make sure I have 3 points, okay? Before you even answer the question, y'all should just be annotating, because when you go back and check your work, you can look up at the question and see, oh, I should have 3 points. Do I have 3 points on my graph? Okay, this is a short response where you're just entering your answer in the box. You just have your scholars enter their answer in the box. Okay, another brief response, a written response, but this one will be brief. Okay, so they give you bullet points. Explain why Craig's answer is not reasonable. Find the total distance, and then explain how to use the number line. We must get scholars used to answering all the points in its entirety. So again, making sure that they are annotating the questions and what's being expected. Again, we have another drop-down menu. Okay, enter your answer in the space provided. Enter only your fraction. So this one doesn't want you to show any work. They want you to enter a fraction. But guess what? If I'm not using the fraction button, I won't know how to do a fraction. Now, we know that there are many different ways that a scholar can do fractions. I can answer, I know 7 divided by 3 is considered a fraction, but we don't want them to lose points by not doing this the correct way. So make sure scholars understand the fraction button, okay? Make sure you're having them practice inputting fractions, whether it's improper fractions, mixed numbers, or proper fractions. Make sure that they are utilized, and make sure you're practicing with them on how to just input this stuff. Maybe you want to one day have everybody on the computer where you're telling them, okay, everybody enter a fraction. And you go around and see and take note of all that, those that are able to do it and those that aren't, so you can provide, some extra practice for those that are struggling. Okay, here, part A, part B. Can't scroll down anymore. Okay, and another drag and drop. So, drag and drop the names. Each category will only be used once, okay? It is important. It is so important to make sure that you are going over these directions with your scholars in practice, because as you will find, many different drag and drop problems have different directions. Some drag and drops, it'll tell you each category may be used more than once, okay? And so if you're not paying attention to that, you may think that you cannot use it more than once, when in reality you can. So squares are always rectangles. Squares are always quadrilaterals. Well, squares are always rhombuses also. Rhombuses are parallelograms, and parallelograms are quadrilaterals. Notice I've dragged and dropped everything where they are, and it's nothing left over. If I want to swap these out, I can't. In order to swap them out, you have to drag them back to the original location, and that clears the field. And now I can move something over. Okay, so this has been my tutorial on how to use the tools of TESTNAV to practice with your scholars before PARCC. If you have any questions, you may email me or comment below, and I will be sure to answer it. Thank you.